We are sitting with deep-seated challenges, disparities between black and white everywhere, whether in education, in health. We have those difficulties. The South African economy can't continue like this. So we must start with the ownership patterns. VBS chair is no more. Itala may go at any time. So if those were the only two banks that we have in the 30, it means there is nothing. So I'm interested on fundamental issues that make us to move forward before we invite a disaster that can come and devour us all. We will have a serious uprising one day in this country by ordinary people who think that the authorities that are there do not represent them. It's very difficult. I mean, for a small-scale farmer to participate in farming, a small, medium enterprise to have access to the economy, very, very difficult. And some of the banks here even hold provincial accounts. What are the targets for those banks that are holding accounts for provincial governments? We just give you the government account for 5 years, and after 5 years, we are still here. I know. This is not how we must continue. Let's get to the fundamental issues about how there is equality of arms in the South African economy, and not until we confront that debate. Statistics are not taking us anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Van Ryn, what to you?
All right, thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me quickly go to my questions. I'm somehow restricted by this time limit. Chair, maybe let me start by welcoming the initiative championed by yourself and Honorable Messina, as mandated by their so-called GNU government. As MK Party, we are overwhelmed by complaints from ordinary South Africans, mainly Black individuals and Black-owned businesses, about unfair and discriminatory treatment by the banks. And I think that has been attested to by most of the people who spoke before me. And it is our submission that this process should also accommodate submissions and participation of the affected. So as we have the full picture, because I think what have been painted by most of the presenters seems to be a very rosy picture of the efforts that they are putting in place. Let's hear the voice of the affected. And I'm submitting to the two leaders of these two committees, capable leaders of this committee, to make sure that we accommodate this as an important aspect of concluding this process, so as we are able to recommend accordingly on what should be our approach. BASA to BASA, our constituents have been very, very outspoken about coalition that is happening between the banks and BASA. So we want to know, SMK Party, if there's any collusion between BASA and the banks. Chairpersons, compounding this matter, I must indicate, is the fact that BASA, just recently in the case of Sekunjalo, provided affidavit in the equality case against Sekunjalo. The question is to our constituents, why did they file this affidavit? Does it mean they did discuss the case in BASA? Do you discuss cases of clients as BASA and the banks? Also to BASA, our constituents are arguing that the big banks, most of them, they meet BE compliance, we agree, just because most of them, senior politicians and government officials or their families or relatives are targeted for inclusion into this BE transaction. Is there any truth to this submission? Are you able to give composition details of this transaction without necessarily being general? And to the public, to your Prudential Authority, Parliament recently resolved that more considerate and sensible, and of course, gradual process should be embarked upon by all stakeholders to ensure that Itala is supported to be a fully fledged FSP. Contrary, the PA, of course, under the leadership of National Treasury, as much as National Treasury is all the time trying to convince us that it's not in charge of your activities, snapped that process. It's important for us to know what is your position about the resolutions of Parliament of South Africa, because Parliament of South Africa resolved that you must follow a certain process to address the issue of Ital. Under the leadership of National Treasury, you decided to snap this process. Can you give us reasons as to what's your take on this resolution of Parliament? Because it's important for us to understand that. And lastly, Chair, it has been brought to our attention by our constituents that out of desperation, Itala database has been handed over to FNB. As we speak now, clients of Itala are being harassed by FNB, urging them to join FNB. So I'm just concerned from the POPIS Act provisions. And maybe I should start by asking if the Prudential Authority is aware of this particular practice. If is it aware of this practice, what is its reaction? Because from where we are seated, this is anti the provision of the POPIS Act. Who authorized the transfer of Itala clients to FNB? So to us, it's clear SMK party that this is more a political process where people are desperate and expeditiously wanting to take over the clientele of Ital and collapsing Ital as the only surviving black initiative with an opportunity or potential to have a fully fledged, to turn into a fully fledged SSP institution. So please let us know if you are aware of this and what's your take on this. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thanks. Honorable Mputu.
Thank you very much, Chair. There are just general comments, Chair, that I would want to make, and I would want the Governor to comment on. Just for context, Chair, you know, the structure of the South African economy historically has been built around serving white minority interest in South Africa. And this is how the structure and the architecture of the South African economy has been. And institutions have been built to support this structure. Now, if you speak about ISCO, if you speak about ESCOM, ITC, and in actual fact, I dare to say the South African Reserve Bank as well. There's been this coordination, and this is pre-1994, to build a sustainable economy that grows, but grows in the interest of white minority rule in South Africa. And so in the first instance, we must understand that these institutions have been built to support that. Now, and the South African Reserve Bank has played a monetary role in driving financialization in South Africa, but also funding industry for development in the productive sectors of the economy to build that economy, which was post-9/11. So this is the history of the South African economy. And Chair, I promise I will not speak as a complainant because I'm a lawmaker. So I will speak as a lawmaker. Now, my view is that fundamentally, Chair, have not been able to transform these institutions. And when I speak about transforming them, to play a strategic role in the structural transformation of the South African economy, the South African society in general. Now, in 1921, Chair, when the South African Reserve Bank in actual fact was formed, it was to play a particular supporting role to this design, architectural design of the South African economy that serves white minority interest. And to address the challenges, of course, which were around financing, creating low interest rates, financing development, and so on and so forth. ISCO, ITC, and at that time, it was termed to solve the white poor problem, in fact. So post-1994, Chair, my view is that, and something funny happens post-1994, is that as we are speaking about transformation, if you look at the focus of these institutions, has been precisely about managing the South African economy, but has not been about changing the patterns of ownership, control, and management of the economy. Now, in 1994, a funny thing happens is that the South African Reserve Bank decides that actually its focus should be around the issue of managing price stability in South Africa. Now, now the national objectives, the national imperatives of the post-1994 government have been about resolving the triple challenges of inequality, poverty, and unemployment. And my question that I wish that the Reserve Bank governor could respond to or comment to is that what is the extent to which the Reserve Bank has been in synergy with the government of the day in producing conditions of resolving these challenges, these triple challenges that we're faced with. And there's a view that I would want the governor to comment on about how there has been a dealing of what you call social consciousness of the Reserve Bank to a market consciousness, where it seeks to serve the interest of the market than the interests of the general populace of South Africa in developing its economy and investing in its people by ensuring that it manages, one, the supply of money in the economy, but also interest rates in a manner that seeks to develop the South African economy and the South African populace in general. So I would want the governor to really comment on this thing. I would have quoted Marx on this matter, which I would want also the governor to respond on. I'm almost done, Chair. But I choose to quote Keynes because I understand that everyone now, when I quote Marx, they will just shut their ears. So Keynes says, and I quote, "Bank credit is the pavement along which production travels. And if the bankers knew their duty, they would provide the transport facility in order for productive powers of the community to be employed in their full capacity." And I've paraphrased it, I close quote. And again, from the regulator, to what extent do we appreciate this? That we've got to regulate, and I differ with the fact that actually the financial sector is over-regulated. I think it's under-regulated in relation to creating laws to force the hand of the banks to meaningfully direct credit allocation to productive sectors of our economy, but not for consumptive purposes. And what is the extent to which the regulator has been able to channel the resource of banks in relation to productive development of our economy? And I would want the governor also to comment on that matter. I won't speak, Governor, on the nationalization of the Reserve Bank today. I don't want to stress you. You know, Chair, I thought, and I think I need to belabor this point because I think it's a general theme amongst the members around the matter of the allegation that is there of racial profiling, which of course is informed by history. It's not just anywhere, it's informed by history, and the history is that Black people don't have assets, and so they are a risk in any case. So when you walk into a bank, as Lufefe that is just come out of a university, you are working with an NSFAS debt in the bank. That's the first instance. And a white counterpart who is my age, just left university, is working actually with a trust fund. And so I'm risky in terms of borrowing. And this is what we speak about racial profiling. We're not speaking about, no, you're Black. No, we're speaking about the context of the racial profiling. And it's true, it's not an allegation, actually, it's there. And we would want the bank to kind of comment on this matter. because we think that it's important. Again, you see, there's something that is not spoken about in this country. I don't know why. Banks manipulated the rand. We're told that cases are closed. This one is still continuing. But we're not getting a sense of what has been the investigation in this grand corruption, which has made a knock in the South African economy. And in fact, Black people and the majority of our people have suffered from this grand corruption. And I guess corruption in the private sector is always kind of nicely done, you know, that no, it's a rand manipulation. It's corruption.
Okay.
Just a last point, Chair. Let me leave this matter off. Just
nothing more. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, Chair. No, the last point on BASA, Chair. I have never, Chair, had an industry association that praises. It's like a shop. It's like a shop steward praising a boss. I mean, you are detached from reality. Your mission is simple. How do you ensure that there is contribution to social and economic development and transformation? And none of that has been, in your report, you have not fundamentally gave us an analysis, one, of what is the landscape in the banking sector and what are the interventions in relation to transformation. You're just throwing us with numbers, which, by the way, those numbers are not informed. If we go deeper, to say, if you're speaking about this SMME thing, how many blacks are there? How many youth are there? How many women are there? But you're just throwing numbers and like just singing praises. And the fundamental issue of ownership, control, and management. And I think that if you are speaking about inclusive economy, you must ask the question, who is being allocated these resources in the banking sector? Because you're speaking about mine in the agricultural sector, this is how much was spent in the manufacturing. But if we can go to who in the specific, and these are the things that we thought that you are going to engage us on, okay. But you have just opted to just be a praise singer. You have opted to really be a spokesperson of the banking sector, of the financial sector. Thank you.
Thanks. Lastly, Honorable Masina, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I think.
Wait, there is a point. Yes, Honorable Member. A point of exigence, or you want to contribute? Okay. Okay, we'll deal with your matter later. Honorable Masina, please proceed.
No, thank you very much. Also, let's welcome the presentation from the three institutions, the Reserve Bank, the FSCA, and BASA, which is the Industry Board Association for the Banks. So I think as honorable members are asking, you mustn't think that we don't understand the role of the association, probably as created by the legislation. You are likely to work very close with the banks. I just wanted to ask a question to the Reserve Bank Governor. Why are the major banks still shareholders of the African Bank? What is their strategic interest, if they can just indicate to us, if they are not double dipping? And this question is very relevant because if you look at what we are being told as the joint committees, that you've achieved the highest level of ownership and control. And the fact is not, it's very far from the truth. And, we've tried leading to this occasion. This is a question to the Reserve Bank. We'll ask the bank directly, differently, other questions. Leading to these questions, we tried to do a lot of research to just try and say, who are these people? If you look at Standard Bank, almost all the 9 shareholders who are there, who are listed, we can ask now. So we'll ask them. So tell us, where is Mr. Skosana or Mr. Mukwena in this shareholding directly? You will struggle. Probably FNB will say Royal Bafokeng because it's their shareholder. Investec, it's the same old. It's a financial sector. owning itself. So who's black there? In terms of transformation, so as Nedbank, so as Absa, so as Capitec. I don't know, there is some Libashe or something, maybe it's black, I don't know. Would ask these questions directly to these banks. So, but we're asking the FNB because we want to understand why is the Reserve Bank allowing these kind of reports to go through as a tick box, which is why it's a reason we felt as the committees that beyond prudential authority matters of ticking the box, whether you've got capital ratios and all that, that you tick every day, you praise yourself as a bank, as the best banking institutions in Africa, who are fine, but you are not transformed. And we're asking this to the bank. And actually, there's a typical matter. There's a fellow from Reserve Bank, colleagues who are here, and the governor, Daniel Minel, who want to know how did it happen that he moved from Reserve Bank under whatever conditions, because we are not here to talk about him as a person. We just want to show the inability of the institutions that are charged with the responsibility to manage the bank. They are not doing their work. How did he move from Reserve Bank under those conditions, which I will not disclose because you know them, to Absa, which Absa, by the way, accepted through Maria Ramos that they manipulated the rent. He moved from Absa and became the chair of Nedbank. And all those appointments are done by the Reserve Bank. I want to know, where was the Reserve Bank that is supposed to be looking after the interests of South Africa when the law is so clear and precise? Just one individual who moved from the Reserve Bank into 2 or 3 other banks, if we are holding each other accountable. Now, so this issue of the manipulation of the rent, the same person asked the bank when he was in the Reserve Bank, he says, write a report about yourselves. They did. They wrote a report that basically says, we have not done anything wrong, which probably was the basis for the court to come to the conclusion after the admission by some of the banks, including Absa. We want to know from the governor, when did the Reserve Bank know of this issue of manipulation? And can they confirm whether or not it's true that the same person that is being flagged by Parliament today was the same person who gave authority to the banks to come to write their own report that exonerated themselves? And what was the role of the Reserve Bank? Now, we know that some of our institutions, the Nedbank is having a case with the Competition Commission on the related matters, and we want to know what is the role of the Reserve Bank in as far as that is concerned. The other issue that I wanted to ask is that, so when this manipulation happened between 2007 and 2013, as the Prudential Authority, what measures did you put in place that probably averted you from not seeing that something was happening, so that we have clarity with regard to those issues? The issue of the banking association, I really do think that it's one conversation, Comrade Chair of the Committee on Finance, we must have. Because in every fair game, you don't have a referee and a player. If you have a referee who's also a player, the other team will have more people to play. So how the Act of 1990, which is an apartheid act, created the banking association is in question. And I do challenge my colleagues in Parliament that it's one area that we need to look at, because there are other industry associations that are not created by law. There should have been some intention basically to protect the apartheid banking architecture, which is today, we are told, is the best. And we are saying it is not the best. It is not the best because it represents the past. There has not been any inch of movement in terms of transformation here in South Africa. And we want to raise this issue quite sharply as we look into some of the reforms that we must make, so that if banks want to have their association, like all other industries, engineers, they've got engineering council, lawyers, they've got lawyers association, and the banking association must be like that. It must be a voluntary organization so that people can go there. They must not be protected by law, because even some of the members of parliament, they are confused whether you are a regulator or they don't know. You are not the regulator. You are an association of banking. You represent their interest and aspiration, you know. And on key things that have to do with, because we represent the people as we're seated here. On key matters, for instance, one of the profound submission that was made by the Banking Association on land expropriation on Section 25. You completely disregarded what happened in 1652, that which became even more legislated in 1913 when during the 1913 Land Act. You went on, you looked into the book, what is the mortgage? You gave us figures, you said, therefore, you cannot do that. But what you don't do for the people of South Africa, a farmer who's funded by one of the banks, he's got an asset he can use to come and look for loan. Yet, the people who have, because he's got a title deed, yet the very same people who might have pieces of land there, they're unable to do the same because their land is not worth it. And all these things are by designs, and at the center of it is the banking system in South Africa, without blaming the banks themselves. So we want to raise these things quite seriously, that we really, really have to reset and look at how we should do things moving forward. But we'll engage as we move forward. Thank you very much, Chair.